These are the top 5 mistakes that will kill your webinar conversions and also how to avoid them. My name is Simone Vincenzi and I'm a webinar expert. And after analyzing hundreds of webinars for my clients and hundreds of webinars that I've run myself, I put together the top 5 mistakes that you need to avoid to make sure that actually you get clients from webinars and they don't fall flat. And I'm going to start from the first one. The first one is that your offer sucks. Now, your offer is the reason why you run your webinar. And your webinar, your entire presentation is designed to sell that particular offer. And if you don't put enough care, love, and attention, and your offer is not something that is already proven that people actually want to buy, what's going to happen is that there are chances that is not going to land, that people are not going to buy. In fact, one of the best things you can do is that before you sell your offer via webinar, is that you sell that offer one-to-one. Why is that? Webinars are a way to sell your offers one-to-many. It's a way to have the conversation that you will normally have one-to-one with a potential client to 10, 100, thousands of people. And so if you're not able to sell that particular offer one-to-one, or it's something that you've never sold before, or is something that is so new and you're not sure how people are going to respond, then it is very unlikely that that offer is going to convert on the first round, unless you're really, really good at offer creation, selling, and marketing. In fact, I see that the biggest problem most of the time that I need to work on with my clients is their offer, making sure that it converts. So before you start your presentation, before you even think about your webinar, start with the end in mind. Think about, what is the offer that I want to sell? And is this offer appealing? Is this offer solving the biggest problems that my clients have? And am I clearly explaining the transformation that my ideal clients will have by buying that offer? And if you start already from that simple starting point, there are way more ways to improve your offer, but if you start from the simple starting point, which is being clear on what is the transformation from A to B that your clients is going to have by buying that offer, and starting with the end in mind, you will find that your webinar will convert much more. So start with the end in mind. Don't start with the webinar presentation. Start with the offer. This is mistake number 1. Now, let's look at mistake number 2, which is not having enough of the right people. And I got to start with an example here. I remember I did a partners webinar with a partner of mine, and we had almost 200 registrations and more than 120 people showed up to the webinar. I was really happy. I was really excited. I was selling my webinar services. This is a presentation that is proven. It converts about 30 to 35% every single time I run it for my accelerator. Moment of the pitch, I start selling. We had one person over 120 that bought the offer and then ended up asking for a refund. And I was thinking, like, this is crazy. It never happened like this before. And what I realized then we were talking is that the majority of the people, they were not ready to implement a webinar. They didn't even have a business. So I did a partners webinar with someone that didn't have the right audience, which actually goes into, as I mentioned, the mistake number 2, which is not having enough of the right people. Having people on a webinar is not enough. You need to have the right people that are ready to buy. Now, of course, not everyone will buy straight away, but if you're very clear about who is the ideal client that you want to attract, and make sure that your webinar marketing material, the title, the subtitle, the content of the webinar talks specifically to that particular client, then you will increase your chances of conversion. Now, needless to say that you need to have enough registrations. In fact, webinars, by the way, can work really well even if you have 5 to 10 people showing up, as long as they are the right 5 to 10. Of course, the more people you have, the more chances you have to convert, the more money you make. In fact, the amount of money that you can make with 100 people attending, or 300, 400, or 1,000 people attending, is very different from the one that you will make if you have 10 to 15 people attending. However, we all start somewhere. So remember, you can have really profitable webinars, even if you have 10 to 15 people. Just know that you need to keep working on attracting the right clients to your webinars, which is the mistake number 2. So not enough of the right people. Now, let's move to mistake number 3. Mistake number 3 is that you train too much. Training too much. Now, your webinar, if you use a webinar to sell, and the goal is to sell one of your products, your offers, one of your services, then you need to apply a different structure of your presentation compared to a presentation that is designed to train, or a training. And I work with a lot of professional speakers, a lot of trainers, and their happy place is training. I want to give you everything that I know. I want to give you everything that I've got. I want to make sure you get value by spending time with me. The problem with that is that you are giving the wrong kind of value if you approach that in that way. And I used to make that mistake as well. I love training. I'm a natural trainer. So I had to change my mindset. And I had to change my mindset that the biggest value you can give someone on a webinar is a shift in perception, is a shift in belief, is a shift in perspective. Because when they think in a different way, they will act in a different way. If you teach how to, what's going to happen, so they're going to come back to you at the end of the presentation and say, oh my God, this training was awesome. And you'll get applause, you'll get compliments, but you will not get sales. So remember, if you want your webinar to convert and get clients, biggest value that you can give to someone is to get them to think in a different way. You teach them how to think. You don't teach them how to do something. You give them a framework. You teach them how to think. You need to give them a different light in which they can approach the problem that they have, a much better solution, and then that's what they're going to buy, whether it's through a call or whether it's through a direct sale. And I'm going to do another video on the different types of call to actions that you can do on a webinar. But remember, if you train too much, you will get compliments and not sales. A webinar that sells has a different structure compared to a training. And this is really important. You need to talk about the things that they need to hear in order to buy, not the things that you want to say because you know that this is the best training that you want to give them. Okay, so make sure you don't train too much. Then we are going to mistake number 4. Mistake number 4 is the lack of follow-up, or no follow-up at all, or very little follow-up. Remember, only about 10% generally, I'm giving you very broad statistics here, about 10% of total registration might buy as a result of your webinar. And of course, it can be a bit more, it can be a bit less, depends on the pricing of the program. That's why I'm going to give you some very loose statistics here. But if you think that 90% of people, they will not be ready to buy straight away, then you know that the sale will happen in the follow-up. And so there are a few things that you need to put in place. One is definitely a follow-up email sequence, and then if you're a bit more advanced, you can add text messages or calls, and you will find that a lot of the sales will happen from the follow-up that you will do, not just there and then on the first webinar. And then secondly is to continue following up after the webinar is done. In fact, we get a lot of clients. I run about 100 webinars a year right now, and we get a lot of clients that they come to you after months, they come to us after months they've watched my first webinar, or they watched the first webinar they signed up for. Why is that? They were not ready to buy there and then, but they made the buying decision there. And they said, I love that program, one day I'm gonna buy it. Or I love what Simone shared, I love to work with Simone. I love GTeX, I love to work with GTeX. Maybe that wasn't the right time, but then you keep inviting back to different webinars, inviting to have a call, and eventually you will have a much higher number of people that will buy the second or third time. So if you remove that follow-up, whether it's an immediate follow-up after the webinar and a continuous follow-up month after month, week after week, after even the sales campaign is finished, then you will miss on a lot of sales. So make sure you add that follow-up piece. So that was mistake number 4 of follow-up. I'm going to give you actually an extra tip on that, which is if you use WhatsApp, and using personal messages and automated messages on WhatsApp or text messages, you will find that your conversion will increase dramatically. Why is that? Because the email inboxes, they are crowded. So you will get some results from emails, but if you add that layer of text messages or WhatsApp and calls, if you have a team as well, or if you want to make calls, you will find that your webinar conversion will skyrocket. And then I'm going to move now on the last mistake, mistake number 5. Mistake number 5 is the lack of consistency. No consistency. What do I mean about that? You run one webinar, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, and then you stop there. Remember, the real value in a webinar is to see webinars as a long-term strategy. Unless you are someone with a huge audience, which if you have, great, it means you're going to make a lot of money in a short space of time if you do it well. If you don't have the luxury, or you're not the kind of person who is great at building audiences, and you're coasting through the 10 to 20 attendees, 20 to 30, 50 to 100 attendees, something like that. Actually, the volume of webinar that you will do will make the difference. In fact, I don't even invite you to look at how many clients you get for each webinar. I will run a webinar at least every couple of weeks or at least once a month. And then at the end of the year, you look back and you see all the numbers of webinars that you've done and the total results of clients that you got from it. This is a much better way to approach the webinar game. This is what really will give you the biggest results. Because maybe it's not that one webinar that will make or break your business if you have a small audience. But if the consistency of webinars, people see you, people keep attending, they continue having exposure to you, at some point, a lot of people will buy. So go away from the mindset of let me just do one webinar, but see webinars as an integral part of your business. You commit to that, it works. Because the reason why webinar works so well is that because people spend time before they spend money. They can see what they're going to buy and they can see how they resonate with you. If they like you or not, if they like your product or not. This is a very safe way, actually, for someone to experience you, your offer, and what you're doing. Remember, use and see webinars as a long-term strategy. You will do that, you will make a lot of money from webinars. So these are my 5 mistakes. Let me give a recap of these 5 mistakes. 1 is that your offer sucks. 2, not enough of the right people. 3, you train too much. 4, lack of follow-up. 5, no consistency. You fix these 5 mistakes, you will make great money from webinars. They will become an integral part of your business, and it's something that is repeatable and that you can use over and over and over again. Of course, if you want to know more information about how you can create webinars, I've got something for you in the show notes, which is our webinar conversion kit, which you can check out. And this is an incredible resource to help you create a high converting webinar presentation that converts every single time. So there are templates, resources, you can check it out, is in the comments, is the webinar conversion kit. With this, remember to subscribe. I cannot wait to see you next video. I'm definitely going to do another video on the different ways of selling from webinars, so make sure you check it out when I publish it. And also, if you have any questions about creating high converting webinars, then drop them in the comments, because I love to see your questions so I can create a custom video just for you. And with this, remember that until next time, together we grow exponentially. Ciao!